Hi class, welcome to the video Understanding the Direct Instruction Assignment. This is your next large assignment in the course and it's worth 15% of your grade. It's due on November 28th. The instructions for this assignment can be found as usual in the Major Assignments folder on the course site. So if you look at a screenshot here, you can see the case study analysis, which we've already done, and then below that, the direct instruction lesson. Everything you need to do this assignment is located in that folder. Now you're seeing inside the direct instruction lesson folder, and you'll see the instructions that also contain the grading rubric and the template for this assignment, and then you'll see the link to submit. This assignment may be turned in up to a week late with a 10% point penalty, and it may be revised. Now let's take a look at the instructions for the assignment. Again, this is located in the folder that I just showed you. This is worth 15% of your grade, as I said. And what you're going to do is you're going to think about something that you know a lot about and that you can teach in a direct instruction lesson in 20 minutes or less. It's important to think about a lesson that would be appropriate for direct instruction. So you're learning a lot about direct instruction in the course, and so you'll know that some things are appropriate and other things are not appropriate. You're going to think about a lesson, and again, it should be something that you can teach in 20 minutes or less. So what you'll do is you'll think about this lesson. And by the way, you don't have to just teach from that list. You can come up with an idea on your own. But you're going to think of the lesson and then plan the lesson. You'll be given a table that I'll show you in a minute, and you're going to complete the table on this template. So you're going to do your work on this file and turn it in using this template. Once you complete the table, you're going to practice the lesson before you teach it. And then you're going to find an age-appropriate student. If your lesson is for an adult, you can teach it to another adult. If it's for an adult, but you could teach it to a teenager, feel free to do that. If your lesson is targeted to a small child, you need to find a small child to teach it to. It could be a relative, a friend's child, a student, but if you are teaching it to a child other than your own children, be sure to clear it with the parent before doing so. Then you're going to teach the lesson. After the lesson, you're going to ask the student questions, and I'll show you those questions in a minute, asking them about what they thought of the lesson. And finally, you're going to complete a reflection in part 2. This whole handout will get turned in by November 28th. So let's go ahead and take a look at that table. This is part 1, the table that you'll fill out when you're planning the lesson. You'll start to remember that direct instruction has certain steps to it. So the first thing you're going to do is introduce the activity and engage the students in some way. So make them understand or help them understand, why is this important? Why should they learn this? Um, the third column here is describe what you will do in this step. And if you want to put words in that you will say to help you, just put them in quotation marks, but at least describe what you will do. How will you engage the student? How will you introduce the lesson? The final column is, do you need any materials in this step? When we're lesson planning, we always have to think about what we'll need in advance. So will the student need pen or pencil or paper or anything else? Step 2 is you're going to have to state one learning objective. What is it you want students to be able to know or do? Helpful hint, it's good to start this with students will be able to. And then think about what you want them to be able to do at the end of a lesson. For example, if you're teaching them the words to a song, maybe your learning objective would be students will be able to sing this song without any assistance from the instructor. In the second column, I put questions that may be helpful as you think about each step. So you can see here for number 2, what do you want students to be able to know or do? What exact words will you use to communicate your one learning objective? And how will you make your language kid-friendly if you're using a child? So you need to state the learning objective to the student. By the end of this lesson, I want you to be able to sing this song on your own. The third step is the procedure. What will you how will you teach the skill or the content knowledge? And how will you model what you want the students to do? This is the I do phase of direct instruction, where you're showing them or telling them what it is you want them to do. So you're going to model I do. The fourth stage is to provide guided practice. So this is where you're doing it with the student. That's the we do phase of direct instruction. So first there's I do, and that's where you, the teacher, are modeling. And then there's we do, where the student does it with you. And the fifth stage is independent practice. This is the you do, where the student does it on their own. The sixth stage is how will you assess learning. So if your learning objective was that they should be able to remember the words to a song, how will you know whether they can do that? Well, most likely you're going to have them sing the song at the end and see if they can do that. And then finally, you don't want to skip this step, what we do at the end of the lesson to sum up learning. Usually closure consists of a summary that you can provide, or it might be to think about next steps for the student, but provide a little lesson closure there. Now you're going to complete that template before you give the lesson, and then you're going to go out and teach the student according to what you put in the template. The student will do the lesson, and then you will ask the student to complete 5 questions. And it's important that you write their answers down, because you have to submit this as part of the assignment. What did you like about the lesson? What went well? Was anything confusing? How could the lesson be improved for you? And do you feel like you learned what you were supposed to learn? So obviously, you can ask the student that, and you can write the responses, or you can give this list of questions to the student and let them consider it and write it. But however you do it, the student has to respond to these 5 questions. The final part of this assignment is for you to reflect on this process, because as we've seen in class before, reflection really does result in higher learning. So who did you teach the lesson to? What age are they? Why did you select this student? What went well during the lesson? What did not go well and why? What changes would you make before you teach the lesson again? And what did you learn about direct instruction from this lesson? So one of the things that we've been emphasizing throughout this course is that it's important to be a reflective teacher, to think about what went well, what didn't go well, and what you would change. And that's the way you improve over time. If you look in this handout, there's also the grading rubric, so you can see exactly how you'll be graded. And you can see, I'll look at your introduction and I'll see if it's present, and if it would motivate the student to learn. I'll look at your learning objective to see it's present and complete, measurable, and aligned with the lesson. And what that means is if you're trying to teach a student how to sing a song, your learning objective shouldn't say how to write a poem, for example. Then the I do, we do, you do, if that's present, whether assessment of learning is present. I'll also be looking at closure, whether the student questions were done, and whether the reflection was done. And you can see how much each of these parts is worth on the overall assignment by the percentages indicated over in the left column. You can see that reflection is worth 20% more than all the rest because it's an important component of learning. That's it. If there are any questions, feel free to email me.